Hello and welcome everyone. My name is Lexi B from healingthemodernmind.com, and today I'm going to be talking to you about how you have two choices when facing adversity. Either you can turn and face your circumstances, or you can deny them and turn the other way. This story begins a few years ago when I had just ended a relationship. It just went down in flames and I was in a lot of pain. After the relationship, I realized I didn't have any friends anymore, and I was still painfully grieving my mother's acquired disability. This was the darkest time of my life for sure, and during this time, I couldn't see a foreseeable way of the anguish really ever ending. And so I had to make a choice, and I realized that I had this choice every day. There were two choices. I could either turn and face myself, or I could continue to wallow in pain every day and not do anything about it. So getting kind of sick of my own bullshit, I turned and faced myself. In this episode, I'm going to be talking to you about the 7 things that I did to completely transform my life and how I did it, and how if your life is sort of crumbling down around you, you can do the same thing that I've done. So if you're ready to show up and face your reality, this is the episode for you. Stay tuned. For a 3-month period after this whole thing went down, I was incapable of getting out of bed. I literally cried myself to sleep for 3 months. Don't feel bad for me. I'm doing great. I had this realization that I was talking about that came from this book, which is one of my favorite books. It's called The 6 Pillars of Self-Esteem, and I'll read this quote to you. So in this book, Nathaniel Branden says, "The facts of life are this: no one is coming to save you. No one is coming to make life right for you. No one is coming to solve your problems. If you don't do something, nothing is going to get better." And then these are my words: "Even if life served you a cold set of circumstances and life is crumbling down around you, your life is your responsibility to make the best of. Because no one," like Nathaniel Branden says, "no one is coming to save you." Though I wasn't actively blaming anyone or denying my circumstances, at this time I wasn't doing anything to really make my life better. And then I became extremely motivated to start changing my life by reading his words. So this is a little bit of tough love, but it was actually exactly what I needed to call my bullshit. So I'll go through these steps now on how I checked myself, faced my adversity, and turned my painful situation into my power. The first step that I did was that I sat with my discomfort and I acknowledged it. Awareness of negative emotions is the first step in being able to process negative emotions. And negative emotions are an inevitable part of life. You are not going to heal if you deny, suppress, and banish away negative emotions. I learned this from a different book that I don't have on hand. It's called Start Where You Are from Pema Chodron. Pema Chodron teaches you that you sit with the negative emotions and just let them be. You just experience them. And yes, it's a very painful situation to be in, to be sitting with awful emotions. But here is the thing. Instead of reaching for the drink or reaching for the drug or reaching for some kind of external distraction or going into video games or spending your money on a shopping spree, instead of doing those destructive things, we just learn to sit with painful emotions and let them pass through us. And now, for some of us, and certainly true for me, these emotions didn't pass through me for a long time. So you might be sitting with terrible emotions for a minute, for an hour, or for me it was weeks and months, nearly a year, until I felt a whole lot better. Pema Chodron calls this holding your seat. It's just holding on and letting the wave of emotions go through. And then the beautiful thing about doing something like this is that when the pain inevitably does lift, you're left with a gift. The gift that you're left with is wisdom. It's the strength of having survived what you went through. Perspective for life. It's that gift of humility that allows you to be empowered to, when you meet someone else in life who is going through the same thing that you went through, you can lend a hand to that person because you've been there, and now you have the wisdom and the knowledge and the know-how to get through it, and now you are called to step into a role of leadership, to be a guide for someone else. So this work can't be done if you've been banishing, denying, and repressing negative emotions. This can only be done when you say, I am feeling this negative emotion, and you describe it, and you acknowledge it, and you give it space and honor its existence. Remember, these emotions are always going to come up in life, so you must address them now or never develop the coping skills to be able to work with those emotions in life. So my favorite way to sit with negative emotions is to journal. So journaling, so all of these 7 steps have transformed my life, so I'm going to say this a lot, but journaling has straight up transformed my entire existence. I would just write down a detailed description of the experience I was having so that it would take the sting away when it was showing up again. And then Pema Chodron, she teaches you to acknowledge the negative emotion, and like invite it in. And there's this Buddhist mantra of like, invite the negative emotion in and even give it cake or something like that. You offer it cake too. So you really invite it in, you allow it to air out, you let it have some space. And in doing that, you really, really, really learn how to cope with these things in life so that you don't always grab the drink or grab the drug or zone out in some other way. Okay, this next one comes from my meditation practice, but also has physiological implications. So this next tip is that when things are acute and feel really intense, start breathing. Start breathing. And I mean deep belly breaths. So when you take a deep breath into your belly and your lungs fill up, it signals to your nervous system that you are safe to relax. So when we are in our sympathetic nervous system, our breathing becomes really rapid because we are about to fight or flight. You're about to chase or be chased. So we need more oxygen into the body to get to the muscles because we're about to fight. And so if you can just take a long, slow inhalation and an even longer, slower exhalation, it really does help. Even just 5 to 10. I suggest like 100 of those because it feels so good. But just taking some deeper breaths can really help your nervous system regulation. I mean, the other part of it is also that when we're depressed, our breathing is really shallow. And so having those deep breaths is also regulatory to the feelings of depression. So breathing, just simply taking some deeper breaths, is fantastic for well-being. The next tip, number 3, is to transmute negative emotions into physical exercise. Everyone needs exercise. So no one's allowed to skip this step. It's part of it, and it's very, very, very important. Our bodies are made to move and groove and be alive. When you exercise, it burns cortisol, the stress hormone cortisol. And when you move, it floods your bloodstream with endorphins, which make you feel good. Additionally, some kinds of exercise like weightlifting, like weight bearing, really strength kinds of exercises, running too, flood your bloodstream with testosterone. And testosterone is a hormone that makes you feel really powerful and confident and sexy and capable. And so testosterone is a huge benefit if you're feeling yucky. Okay, so if you're feeling really bad, as I was back then when I was going through all of this stuff, there were days I literally wouldn't get out of bed. I was just that sad. I just wanted to sleep. If you just can't even muster up the strength to go for, or to get some exercise, just go for a walk. Just go for a walk. So there's a cognitive therapy based on this. It is proven, factual, tons of evidence to back it up. It's called EMDR. And it's based on the side-to-side eye movements that happen when you're walking. So studies show that when you are in contemplation, you're thinking, you're walking, you're thinking, you're walking, you really do get into some of that emotional processing. And I mean, you could just experiment on yourself. When you're in a down mood, go for a walk and see if anything lifts. Okay, step number 4, consume books voraciously. Turn your knowledge into your power. Reading books during this time helped me process everything so much. So I processed my past relationships. I took a deep dive into my own psychology. I learned about my moods. I learned about my brain. And by just using books, matching them with my ailment. So this book for this ailment, this book for this thing, not only are you simultaneously curing yourself of whatever thing it is, but you are also just accumulating this huge wealth of knowledge about healing. So if you want to transform your pain into power, please turn your knowledge into power. Okay, tip number 5 is language reprogramming. So back when I was really depressed, I was telling myself some really pathetic stories. I'm reading that book that I recommend. I'll put the link to both books down in the description below, but Start Where You Are by Pema Chodron. She teaches you Zen Buddhist mind training, and what that is a method to get into your thoughts. You take your thoughts and you really look at them and you decide, is this thought really true? Could any part of this thought not be true? And then I took my journal and I would write down my thoughts and write, you know, instances when the thought that I was having wasn't true. So my thought that I was a failure, I would just write, you know, 10 different times that I wasn't a failure. And inevitably I could see that yes, my thinking was flawed. Now, you don't always have to write these down. With language reprogramming, Zen Buddhist mind training is what this is for Pema Chodron. With Zen Buddhist mind training, you can do this in the car. You can do this when someone irks you. You can do this when you get caught off in traffic. You can do it all of the time. You just say, there's a thought that made me feel a thing that doesn't feel good. Like, what was the thought? And then just start thinking about the thought and really get into there and really call your own bullshit. And that helps you take those painful thoughts and put them towards a more productive way of being. Okay, the next one is community and connection. So part of my misery was that I didn't have any friends. I had been so enamored with my relationship that I just didn't have any good friends anymore, right? When I found some good friends, my life really transformed. Community is a fantastic way to gain connection because human beings, we are tribal. We are supposed to be together. And if you think that you're out there doing this whole thing on your own, you're doing it wrong. You need other people, so seek out connection. Even if you feel really yucky, just go be with people. The next one is pretty simple, but really hard. It's practice, 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 practice. You need to practice these habits every single day. And you're not allowed to beat yourself up when you do inevitably mess up. As you implement these habits, you will become expert at implementing these habits. You will be so good at checking yourself and turning in towards pain that every time something painful comes up, you know, signal, it's my time. It's my lesson is here. You'll train yourself to be better at these things and you'll really learn to crave it, just like any good habit. I know it sounds strange, but I couldn't be more grateful for those dark days of my life. kind of hope that they never come back, to be honest with you. But wow, I've got some perspective now. Yes, thank you so much for watching this video. My name is Lexi B, and I hope this video does inspire you to step into your power, turn your story into your triumph. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, click the subscribe button so the algorithm knows that I'm awesome, and I'll see you in the next episode. Have a great day.